President Trump spoke about that caravan during a rally last night in Michigan.
Are you watching that mess that's going on right now with the caravan coming up? Are you watching this? And our laws are so weak. We've gotten Mexico to work with us on stopping a lot of what's pouring in, but we have the worst laws anywhere in the world. We don't have borders. We're going to build the wall. We're getting it. We've already started.
President Trump last night in Michigan. Geoff Bennett covers the White House for NBC News. And Geoff, I want you just to put those remarks into context. That speech went on for about an hour and 20 minutes last night. The president spoke about a range of issues. He certainly spent some time talking about immigration and the border. Put it into some context for us, if you would.
That's right. And on the issue of this caravan, I can tell you that the president and members of his cabinet have been tracking their progress since March 25th. That's the day it started. The president all the while trying to characterize it as a threat to the U.S. Remember, he tweeted about it saying that this caravan better be stopped before they reach the border. But this will in many ways be a test of the president's rhetoric on immigration, because even as the president has made those comments, and his attorney general, Jeff Sessions, put out a statement calling it a deliberate attempt to undermine our laws and overwhelm our system, Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen said that anyone who arrives at the border and submits a claim would have their asylum claims looked at expeditiously and efficiently. That was the phrase that she used. She also, as Gotti mentioned, also put out a warning to those trying to help those asylum seekers that anyone who would help any of them file a false claim would be persecuted. So that's kind of the context here as we watch these pictures of what's unfolding at the border. I can tell you I've reached out to White House officials about their immediate reaction to all of this. Haven't heard back. We know the president is here, and we imagine he might be watching some of this unfold on TV, because remember, it was Fox News' initial coverage on Fox and Friends that caught the president's attention. That was why he started tweeting about it initially. And as we know, he thinks this issue of illegal immigration is the thing that really animates his base. It's why he keeps returning to it, David, on the stump. It was the thing that launched his presidential campaign. Remember, he attacked illegal Mexican immigrants, undocumented Mexican immigrants. And so this is the thing that we are told by members of his political operation that he will return to in the 2018 midterms. This is the thing that he hopes will get the base out to vote for the Republican ticket. David?
Geoff, something related to this that we heard last night from the president is his willingness to shut down the government if money isn't allocated to build the wall that he once built on the U.S.-Mexico border. I know, Geoff, that in the past, this has been the subject of some controversy, even with those members of his own party who aren't thrilled with the president using this as a card to play.
That's right, and it certainly has been a non-starter, but still, this is the thing that the president keeps returning to, in part because, and this goes back to a couple of months ago, and there were talks about some sort of resolution for the roughly 700,000 or so dreamers in the country. When the president was trying to arrive at a deal, he was pilloried by those on the right, his conservative base, for trying to, find ways to give amnesty to undocumented immigrants. And so the way the president dealt with that was by pivoting back to the wall. And so every time he sort of, catches a little flack from the right on trying to do too much for DACA recipients, he comes back to this issue of wall funding. So, yes, he did break some news last night suggesting that he would take steps to shut down the government if the government funding bill at that time didn't include the amount of money he wants for the border wall. But as you rightly point out, Democrats and even Republicans on the Hill say that's a no-go. David.
Geoff Bennett, stay with us, if you would. Going to talk more about that speech, talk about another one. The president gave that speech last night, shortly before comedian Michelle Wolf took the mic at the annual White House Correspondents Association dinner, an event that President Trump skipped for a second straight year. And while he wasn't in attendance for that event, he was, nevertheless, the focus of Wolf's performance.
And look, I could call Trump a racist or a misogynist or xenophobic or unstable or incompetent or impotent, but he's heard all of those and he doesn't care. So tonight, I'm going to try to make fun of the president in a new way, in a way that I think will really get him. Mr. President, I don't think you're very rich. Trump is so broke, he has to fly failed business class. There's Kellyanne Conway. Man, she has the perfect last name for what she does. Conway. You guys gotta stop putting Kellyanne on your shows. All she does is lie. If you don't give her a platform, she has nowhere to lie. It's like that old saying, if a tree falls in the woods, how do we get Kellyanne under that tree? I'm not suggesting she gets hurt, just stuck. He has helped you. He's helped you sell your papers and your books and your TV. You helped create this monster, and now you're profiting off of him. And if you're gonna profit off of Trump, you should at least give him some money because he doesn't have any.
Geoff Bennett still with us. Kevin Cirilli of Bloomberg News with me as well. Nerd prom kings both. They were both at that dinner last night. Jason Johnson with me as well, editor of TheRoot.com and MSNBC political contributor. He was also there at the event last night. Jason, let me start with you. You've seen the reaction to those comments and others from Michelle Wolf. Dare I say there was a bit of sanctimony in a lot of them. What's your reaction to what people have said about what was a comedy routine by the hired comedian at that event last night?
So I think a lot of these people who are complaining now, I wonder if they were mad when George Bush joked about weapons of mass destruction, not being able to find bombs and involving us in a war that's killed hundreds of thousands of people all over the world. I mean, look, she was a stand-up comedian. She came in, she did a stand-up routine. I was in the room. The vast majority of people laughed, at least those who didn't thought they were going to be caught on camera. And this sort of, this hand-wringing nonsense that seems to happen every single year after the White House Correspondents Dinner has become sort of an event in and of itself, and it doesn't make any sense to me. They're hiring someone edgy because they want us to be talking about it the next day. If you want an easy, simple comic who's not going to offend anybody, get Jim Gaffigan, get Wayne Brady. But if you keep getting people from The Daily Show, this is what happens.
Kevin Cirilli, you were one of the reporters who weighed in on this after the event took place. Let me just read from your tweet after the event last night. It was uncomfortable sitting through the comedian's attacks, but I can't imagine how it must have felt to be on the receiving end of those attacks. Not jokes. Highlight for me last night, hearing about the incredible scholarship winners and the courageous war journalists, hashtag WHCD. Kevin, just your reaction to this. I mean, this is part of the event now. There are those who say maybe Michelle Wolf took it a step farther than others have in the past, but as you point out, there are component parts to this event. There is the speech by your colleague, the president of the White House Correspondents Association. There are these scholarships. You see these young journalists who are getting money from the White House Correspondents Association. And then there is the component part of this that is just the comedy routine. What did you make of it as it played out? What were people saying during the course of the comedy routine?
Yeah, I'll be honest. I mean, for me, that comic act was not the highlight of it by any stretch of the imagination. I think, quite frankly, it missed the mark on what the whole night is supposed to be about. And comedy can bring people together. I don't think that did. Look, the highlight for me was Aya Hijazi. She was an imprisoned war journalist under the Egyptian regime, and she was freed, actually, in response to nonpartisan back and forth by Republican and Democrats in April of 2017. She was jailed, imprisoned in Egypt. Hearing her story last night is really what that night, for me, is supposed to be all about. By the way, also the $136,000 in scholarship grants that the WHCA gives out to aspiring journalists. And, you know, that to me is the highlight every year. I'll leave it up to the rest for what they want to say, but it was uncomfortable. It was uncomfortable.
Jeff, do you agree with that? And, you know, I just think about the way this event has evolved, how well attended it was during the Obama years, that's gone down.
Yeah.
There are also just funny quirks about this. As I was reading about it, President Trump and Vice President Pence did meet with the young recipients of these scholarship grants on the Friday before the event took place. So while they're saying they want no part of it, in fact, they were part of the event or the weekend as a whole. What was your reaction to what you heard last night, Jeff?
Well, you know, Michelle Wolf at the outset of her routine made clear that she does not typically do political comedy, and I think that was clear. Her set was not really designed for people in the room. It was designed to gin up controversy, and she certainly did that. I think the way people sort of react to her is entirely dependent on what they think of the president. So you have Trump supporters saying that her routine was vile, inappropriate, not funny. Those on the left really saying it was sort of a speak truth to power moment. Her attack, her bullying of Sarah Sanders, I think that was certainly the case. We've heard from those on the left who say that it was in many ways warranted, given that the president himself, they say, is a bully who has attacked a disabled reporter, often attacks lawmakers and reporters based on their looks. So, again, Kevin's point is a good one. There are things about that dinner that are far more important than any one comedian's routine. The thing I would point out, though, that one of the reasons why her routine felt so one-sided was because the president, for a second year in a row, was not there. And typically, the president offers his own takedown, offers his own roast, in many ways returns the gesture. You can remember the last couple of years, 4 years, 8 years, of President Obama doing that, and President Obama was often funnier than the chosen comedian of the given night. But that was missing this year, so that was one reason I felt why it seemed entirely one-sided.
Jason, I'll give the last word to you. I lived in Washington for a long time. I've been to this event before. I enjoyed watching the cutaways of folks in the audience reacting to, occasionally laughing at what Michelle Wolf had to say. But I saw sort of a fundamental misunderstanding of what a comedian does. It was as if many people in that room hadn't seen a comedy routine before, hadn't been the subject or the butt of jokes made by a comedian. I'm struck by something that Geoff Bennett said just a moment ago. That is, here you had Michelle Wolf speaking truth to power. And there's always, I mean, it's almost like a misapprehension about her role in this. She's not a journalist. She's a comedian, and that's what she was doing there.
Yeah, she's there to be a court jester and give people things to laugh about, and you make fun of the people who are in power. And I want to say two things real quick about this, about both the audience and about the people who were attacked in this particular afternoon. She was making a joke about Sarah Huckabee Sanders lying, and she has lied. So that's what the joke was about. It's not about makeup. It's not about looks. It was a joke about lying, and everybody understood that. But also this, and I think this is important, David. I watched some of the speech at some of her jokes at the table, and I watched some in the back with staff. The staff thought it was hilarious. So maybe some of the people who don't spend their entire lives doing the kind of Washington thing and feeling that they have to be supplicant to this White House, maybe they appreciate it because this is how a lot of Americans actually feel. They like seeing people in power being taken down a peg, and whether that's those of us in the press or those of us in the White House, that's what America needs every once in a while. We should learn how to appreciate it.
I like what you're saying there. I just saw King Lear, of course, the Fool, a huge part of that play, and I like the history that you're bringing to bear, as always. Jason Johnson, thank you very much for the time. Geoff Bennett, Kevin Cirilli, thanks to you
Thanks, David.
as well.
Thanks, David.